Oh yeah, sun's out. Super happy. All right, I never want to leave Los Angeles. So, you guys want to hear a funny story? I'll tell you a funny story. So, like, some like random thoughts on like racism, racial profile, whatevs. Okay, so I was funny facts. So I was just chilling at, doing my typical random super early morning walk, wearing my Kim Cash Money armor, looking like a homeless person, right? I'm just like, I was like, it was like super cold this morning. The sun came out, so I'm feeling good now. But it was super cold earlier, and therefore, like, I wanted to warm up. I also wanted to get a cup of coffee. So I first went to Phil's. The line was too long, so I can't be doing that. And then afterwards, so I was just like, oh yeah. Oh, I always go to Erewhon. Let me check out Erewhon. It's like, doesn't Erewhon sell coffee, right? So went to Erewhon, and I'm just like frantically looking for a cup of coffee. I'm just like, I'm trying to do this mental calculus, like, is it better for me to just buy one of those pre-bottled coffees, or should I just get a fresh cup of coffee? So I'm like pacing around, looking at prices, and I'm like kind of in a rush, right? Like, well, the bottled coffee didn't look interesting, so I'm just pacing around. I'm like super hardcore effing intense. If you've ever met me in the flesh. So then, and then it's so funny because out of nowhere, right? Like some dude, tall Caucasian looking guy, right? I think he's like one of the supply chain managers. I think his name starts with the A. Maybe like dude in his 50s, gray hair, something like that. And he kind of approaches me. It's like, oh, excuse me, sir. Do you need help looking for anything? ... right? Which means he's a homeless looking guy. I think I'm gonna steal something, right? Therefore, it was super funny because it's never happened to me because like I'm Asian American. Typically people don't think that Asian guy's gonna jack nothing. Therefore, as a consequence, I took off my shirt. Sun's out, baby. Happy. Good. Happy. Right? So anyways, effectively what happens is a guy comes up to me and he's like, so when somebody comes up to you and say, oh, excuse me, can I help you with something, right? Essentially what it means is that I think you're gonna steal something. So it means I think you're gonna steal something, and therefore I'm gonna approach you and be fake friendly, nice to you because it's my essentially low-key way of trying to scare you off, right? So it's kind of a funny thing because, like, I've heard stories that it actually happens to a lot. Use African American, Latino, whatever, right? And I was even talking to one of my buddies here who just works here on the steps, right? And kind of like Latino American, Mexican American guy, right? Kind of short, buzzed head. And then he's like, yeah, last time I also went to Erewhon, I had similar things, like some tall, he said, oh, like some tall white guy was following me around and is like, tailing me, is asking if I needed help or something like that, and something like that, right? Which essentially means, if you use, Mexican American, people like trying to racially profile you, think that you finna steal something, right? And so, anyways, it was kind of interesting to me as a thought because I wondered to myself, is racial profiling or appearance profiling ethical? And I think it's an important thing because obviously Americans are super racist, right? Like just think to yourself, right? Who would you think is more likely to steal something in a store? Like, Caucasian guy or African American? Or Asian guy or African American guy? Asian guy or Latino guy, whatevs, right? It's so funny too, because I don't think I look like a homeless person, because A, I'm too handsome, B, I have a good haircut, whatevs, right? But because my clothing made me look like a homeless person, people assumed that I was gonna jack something, right? And honestly, like racially profiling, it don't matter who the perpetrator is. Like you could be African American, you could be Asian, whatevs, Jewish, something, and you could still be the racial profiling slash like appearance profile. So maybe racial profiling isn't actually the thing. We should think of it like maybe like appearance profiling, because you know it does matter, like you know what your outfit is, what your haircut look like, your facial morphology, your skin pigment tone, whatevs. Yeah, but you never know. So I mean, like my personal thought is perhaps appearance profiling is bad. It's bad if like I think it's okay if, like, imagine you're a mom and pop shop in K-Town or you know Compton. This was a lot happened with the race riots in LA back in the day. Was like, you know, a lot of Korean American people who owned liquor stores, and you know animosity with African American communities, you know, people coming in like trying to, you know, racially profile and steal stuff. And so Korean people are just like super racist. Even etymologically speaking, it's interesting because Korean people talk about, like, you know, quote black people as 흑인. 흑 means dirt, or black. In means person. So like inherent in the Korean race language is already racism. Is that like you see an African American person, you're gonna call them 흑인, which is like the legit term. And inherent within the language, you can be calling them like lesser, worser, black, whatever, right? And then typically Korean people called white people 백인. 백 means white, in means person. So even the notion of a quote white person comes from this 백인 notion. But it's also super interesting because Vietnamese people, they call, you know, quote white people người Mỹ. Người means person, Mỹ means America, right? And also something interesting I never really thought about, is good, where it's good to be bilinguals, is that the notion of 미국 and 미음 이 기억 우 기억, right? Mi means beautiful, like 미인, like you call a beautiful woman 미인 in Korea. I don't know, even the word 미술, 미음 이 시옷 우 리을, means beautiful work. So 미국 means beautiful country. I wonder if Mi also means beautiful. I'm not sure. Anyways, so in the Vietnamese language, they call quote white people like American people, which is super interesting because it's totally kind of like a Vietnamese refugee Vietnam War kind of vibes too, because you know you have all these, you know, white foreigner looking people coming in. What do the Vietnamese people call them? They're gonna call them American people, not quote white people. But then in Vietnamese, you call somebody who's black or African American, you call them Người Đen, which means Đen means black, like the color black. But it's so funny too, because the Vietnamese people will call white what they perceive as white people Người Mỹ, but then you could call like a European Người Mỹ because the worldview is quite limited. But anyways, so yeah, I was just thinking, it's just like, I mean, several things. One, I guess it was very good that I was born in the States and being Asian American, Korean American, right? Like, people are not racist to Asian people in the traditional way. Like, people aren't gonna think that I'm gonna steal your car, right? Whereas my friend Anthony back at the Crunch Gym, he told me, he's like, yeah, he just be walking next to dudes Honda Civics, and then people think he's gonna break into their car. So like in America, like Asian people in some ways kind of has the quote good racism, because like, oh, we good math, we like super book smart, and we're trustworthy, we ain't gonna steal nothing, right? But then the double-edged sword is, oh, you know, Asian guys, we meek, we passive, you know, you can't stunt, you ain't ratchet, right? So people get so confused by Kim, because like, I don't know, if I was something else, African American and talking all loud and stuff, right? People will be less shocked or less whatevs, right? Like, you know, if you go to McDonald's, see a bunch of African American kids talking super loud and ratchet, like people just kind of turn the other way because it's, you know, people are racist. It's a class issue, is that if you use low class and poor, use loud and ratchet and whatevs, right? But if you know you're elite, you kind of privileged, whatevs, then use quiet and you antisocial, right? So that's why I kind of confuse people's perceptions. So and yeah, so the way that people low-key kind of racist towards Asian American, at least men, right, is that like they see Asian American guys as like passive, meek, and kind of like nerdy, right? Like you watch popular TV culture media and they always assume you're short too. So like one of the funniest things happens to me a lot, right? When I meet fans or people in real life, you know, watching me on the YouTubies, they're like, "Whoa, you're way taller in person than I thought you were." I'm like 5'11", right? 5'11 and a half, 6 and a half, right? And then I'm like, that's because I'm Asian. You racist. You think that all Asian guys are short, right? Actually, the funny thing with the internet's, right? You never know how tall people are in real life. And so also another heuristic I have is never trust the shorty guys, because the shorty guys often have some sort of, like bone to pick. Even I was like looking at some pictures of Zack Snyder. I mean, I think Zack Snyder is one of the best directors of all time. The movie 300, even the Justice League black and white version, I think it's a masterpiece. I think actually Zack Snyder is pretty short too, right? And don't trust no comedian, you know, celebrity, famous person, rapper. This includes Kanye, Kendrick, that it is. Even I think Eminem, who are shorty guys, because it looks like everyone has a quote-unquote Napoleon syndrome, is that when you're shorter, you try to make up for it in other, you know, weird ways, and you're trying to prove something. But if you're tall, you got nothing to prove, so better to trust a Jay-Z who's like, what, 6'2"? He's 6'2", how he said fits on new Bugatti. Haha, F it, you got me, right? So yeah, tall people, we got nothing to prove, right? But anyways, so yeah, like whenever I go gym, and people are always like, but be careful, you might hurt yourself. And I'm like, my low-key suspicion. If I was African American, would you come up to me and try to mansplain to me why I might hurt myself, right? And yeah, and I think you know, moving forward, I think it's important that, you know, if you smell racism, sexism, any sort of ism, dude, like even if you have a 1% thought that said person is acting that way, I think you should just call it out. Like, it's like, oh, you think that's because I'm right? I think it's good to pull out the race card, the ethnicity card, the appearance card, whatevs, because it's. I mean, I think I almost feel like it's an ethical thing too. Like even Nassim Taleb. Wait, is that Nassim Taleb? Oh yeah, he has a motto. It's like, if you see fraud or suspect fraud and you don't yell fraud, you're a fraud. So my thought is, if you see racism, suspect racism, but you don't call it racism, then use the racist. And then simple philosophical ethical thought is racism bad? I think it's bad. Like, if I was born African American, people treat me all bad, like, you know, I wouldn't want that, right? It's like, it's kind of the silver ethical rules. It's like, don't do unto others as you don't want others to do unto you. Or, you know, the golden rule, best friend Jesus was like, treat other people the way you want to be treated, right? And it's tricky too, because with ethics, honestly, it's all subjective and you could game it too. But I mean, like, I like being treated with respect. I like it when people greet me, they say hi to me and smile at me, whatever, right? So I'm gonna do that to other people's, right? And you know, I don't like it when people racially or appearance profile me, so I'm not gonna do that to other people. So therefore, as a consequence, it seems that the simple heuristic is best friend Gandhi, right? Be the change of what you wish to see in the world, or call out what you suspect is injustice or BS, even if you might be wrong. It's kind of like, it's so funny too, because like we allow other people to punk on us, but then we try to punk on other people. Somehow we're the bad guys. I have another simple heuristic too, is that like, it's like, I mean, honestly, the funny thing in America is, like, I think everybody is insecure, or there's a sort of ism on every said given party. So even a thing I think about a lot too, right? Especially being here in Culver City, being back in LA, right? A lot of Jewish people live here, Jewish American people, a lot of Israeli issues here. So I was reading the Torah this morning. You know, the beginning of the Torah, like Genesis, the same thing as the Bible, right? And actually, super facts is I think the Torah or the Holy Book was written by Moses. Just read Tacitus on the Jews, the Tacitus Histories, book 5, the Siege of Judea. It's kind of the closest thing. Essentially, long story short, Jewish people suffering a plague, in Egypt or somewhere, and they're all dying, and they need to find a better opportunity. And then one of the leaders, Moses, Jewish guy, right? He leads them out, and he said, "Put no more trust in man or God, because both has forsaken us. We got to find this ourselves." They did. 7 days, no food, no water. A lot of them died, surviving the plague. And essentially, Moses writes a book in order to solidify his peoples forever. So he writes the holy Jewish book, the Torah. I don't even know if it's called the Torah, whatever, right? So I think also from a philology perspective and critical history perspective, like, I think we gotta wipe away the hocus pocus, guys. Let's try to think more critically. And it's funny too, people, because atheism, it's like, it's not atheism, it's just like, just call it critical scholarship, right? Is think critically about things, right? And so, yeah, and I think it's important to consider too, because Christianity is essentially Judaism 2.0. Let us not forget that Jesus was Jewish, and even modern day Christianity as we know it should be rather seen as borrowing from the Nietzsche, the Antichrist book, is that like modern day Christianity as we know it is essentially like St. Paul. It's just the St. Paulism, the saying of St. Paul, etc. So it's critical for us to think about these things. So anyways, the reason I bring up Jewish people is that like the question I thought about for a long time, I ponder, is like, is Jewish people quote white? Why did Jon Stewart have to change his last name? Why did Kirk Douglas have to change his last name, etc.? Why when you call somebody a Jew, it's kind of seen as like an insult, right? Even isn't it Eric Cartman from South Park, when he's talking to Kyle, he's like, "Oh, Kyle, you stupid Jew," right? And it's like, wait, how come South Park could get away with it, but like Kanye can't, right? And so once again, I think it's kind of a hidden racism. I mean, honestly, I think the only reason people hate Kanye West is because he's an outspoken African American guy. If Kanye West was, typical quote American, Caucasoid, Caucasian, white guy, even Jewish, like, I think, like, it would still be bad, but not as bad. Is my generalized thought too. So yeah, I think in order for us to think about things a little bit more critically, let us just try to call out what you consider racism, sexism, or what, gayism, genderism, LGBTQ anti-stuff isms. Yeah, so I guess ultimately, yeah, to quote Nassim Taleb, you see fraud and you suspect fraud, best to call them a fraud. You see some stuff that you consider unsavory, I don't know, just post a 1-star review on Google Maps, Yelp, or even better yet, YouTube about it, blog about it, keep it in the open domain. A simple heuristic is, yeah, just put it out there and make it publicly accessible. I mean, one of the issues with just putting something on Google Maps or Yelp is that it's kind of stuck on the platform. You post it to your own permissionless open source website blog, bluehost.com, ionos.com, wordpress.org. You'll be better indexed and created for posterity.